Have you ever had one of those days? The kind where you don't want to talk to anyone. You sit quietly, you stare at the floor, and somehow, your dog walks over and rests its head on your lap. No words, no explanation, just there, almost as if it knows something is wrong. And that raises a strange question. Do animals actually know when we're sad? Or are we just imagining it? Because if animals can recognize our emotions, that would mean they're paying far more attention to us than most people realize. And surprisingly, science suggests they might be. Let's start with dogs. Because if there's one animal that seems to understand humans unusually well, it's the dog. Dogs have spent thousands of years evolving alongside us, long enough that some researchers describe them as specialists in human behavior. A dog may not understand what sadness is the way humans do. It doesn't know about stress. It doesn't know about heartbreak. It doesn't know why you're upset, but it can detect changes. And animals are incredibly good at detecting changes. When you're sad, your behavior shifts. You move differently. You speak differently. You smell differently. Your posture changes. Your energy changes. And dogs notice all of it. Experiments have shown that dogs respond differently to people who are crying compared to people who are humming or talking normally. In some studies, dogs approached crying humans more often, even when the crying person was a stranger. Think about that. The dog wasn't reacting to someone it loved. It was reacting to emotional distress itself, which suggests something fascinating. Dogs may not understand sadness, but they recognize that something unusual is happening, and they often respond. But dogs aren't the only animals that seem sensitive to human emotions. Cats might be paying attention too, which is surprising, because cats have a reputation for not caring about anything, including us. But the reality is more complicated. Cats learn our routines. They know when we wake up. They know when we eat. They know when we leave. And they know when something feels different. Some studies suggest cats can distinguish between human emotional expressions. They may react differently to happy faces and angry faces. And many cat owners report the same strange experience. When they're upset, their cat suddenly appears. Not always, not dramatically, but often enough to make people wonder. Is the cat comforting them? Or is it simply curious? The honest answer is, we don't know. But whatever the explanation is, the cat noticed the change. And that's important. Now let's leave our homes for a moment. Because emotional awareness isn't limited to pets. Consider horses. Horses are prey animals. Their survival depends on reading body language. A horse constantly scans the world for danger, and humans are part of that world. Research has shown that horses can distinguish between different human facial expressions. They react differently to angry faces than to relaxed faces. Why? Because emotional states often predict behavior. An angry human may behave differently from a calm human, and recognizing that difference can be useful. In other words, animals don't necessarily need to understand emotions. They only need to understand patterns. And that leads to a deeper idea. Maybe animals aren't detecting sadness itself. Maybe they're detecting the signals sadness creates. Think about how humans do it. You don't actually see sadness. You see tears. You hear a trembling voice. You notice silence. You observe behavior. Animals may be doing something very similar, just using different senses. Dogs rely heavily on smell. Cats rely on observation. Horses rely on body language. Different animals, different tools, same goal, understanding what's happening around them. But some animals take this even further. Let's talk about elephants. Elephants are famous for their emotional behavior. They comfort distressed herd members. They help injured individuals. They even appear to mourn their dead. When one elephant becomes upset, others often respond. They may touch the distressed animal with their trunks. They may stay nearby. They may behave differently. And when scientists observe this, it's difficult not to wonder, if animals can recognize sadness in each other, could some animals also recognize it in us? The answer is probably yes, at least to some extent. But here's where things get complicated. Recognizing sadness and understanding sadness are not the same thing. A dog may know you're upset. That doesn't mean it understands heartbreak. A horse may sense anxiety. That doesn't mean it understands worry. An elephant may respond to distress. That doesn't mean it understands human emotions the way humans do. And honestly, we shouldn't expect it to, because animals experience the world differently than we do. Their minds evolved for different challenges, different environments, different lives, which brings us to the strangest realization of all. Humans often assume emotions belong to us. as if sadness is a uniquely human experience. But sadness existed long before humans did. Fear existed. Stress existed. Loss existed. Animals have been navigating emotions for millions of years, long before we ever appeared. So maybe the real question isn't, do animals know when we're sad? Maybe the better question is, what does sadness look like from their perspective? Because to a dog, it might be a change in scent. To a cat, a change in routine. To a horse, a change in posture. To an elephant, a sign that another social creature needs support. Different species, different interpretations, same signals. So, do animals know when you're sad? The answer is probably yes, at least more than we once believed. They may not understand your problems. They may not know why you're upset. They may not understand heartbreak, anxiety, or grief. But they notice, they observe, they adapt, and sometimes they respond. Which means that when your dog sits beside you during a difficult day, or your cat quietly appears out of nowhere, or your horse becomes unusually attentive, it might not be a coincidence, because animals are watching us far more closely than we realize. And while they may never fully understand our words, they might understand our feelings better than we think.